Hi, everybody. We're now live on my personal Facebook account, my LinkedIn broadcast account, and my YouTube. So I could share those links back with Suzanne and she could see how great that she did her presentation, but also you could refer to later. Welcome, everybody, again, for those online that happen to be there. And for you guys, this is the second part of our meeting at SPI or Sarah Paul International or OMG, which stands for offline meet and greet, or if you're online meet and greet. OMG, in case you didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I bring you to Suzanne Barret, who's in the medical billing industry or business, and she's going to give us her 10-minute presentation. I'll give you the 1 minute toward the end.
Sounds like a deal. Alrighty, so for those of you who don't know, because I know we have a couple new people, that my name is Suzanne and I work with Infused Healthcare Solutions. We also have within our company, my company, which also topdocumentation.com. Infused Healthcare Solutions is a full cycle billing service. So we not only verify your patient's benefits, we assist you with processing claims, following up on those claims, and ensuring that they pay it. For a provider, they are pretty much removed from those administrative responsibilities. That's what we do. We take care of that whole system. And for us, no provider is too small, no provider is too big. So for example, we have providers that are single providers who only work in the evening because they have like a day job, if you will, and they do telehealth. And they only do telehealth, and we do the billing for that. Now, for most billing companies, that's too small of a provider, and we manage all of those systems for them so that they can do what they want to do. And this particular provider does telehealth for mental health, and so this way, for you, he can go to work. I mean, you can go to work, and then when you need assistance, he's there in the evening for you. What we do is we provide personalized services according to what your provider needs. So I work more with the providers, not with the patients. And so with that, we work according to what their systems are. And beyond that, they may need additional services such as contracting, credentialing with insurance companies. When they onboard a new provider, we take care of that and we make sure that the provider is able to be handled with the insurance companies so that they can be paid for their claims. We have vast experience in compliance as well as meeting medical necessity and medical criteria for your claim. So it's no fun for you to go to the doctor because you had some issue. Doctor files a claim gets denied, and the balance gets dropped to you. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing more surprising than what we call a surprise bill. And so if you are familiar with the recent legislation that came about with the No Surprises Act, that was more in regard to, for example, emergency rooms, in regard to where you would go to the emergency room and they would run lab work. But then the lab work went to a lab that's not on your plan. And then you get this bill for lab work. And so what we do is we try to help you work through those denials, etc. In fact, personally, this is one of the things that I do is I work with those denials because it was at that time I would go to the insurance company and say, look, it's not, they can't, they're an emergency. This is emergent care. They cannot sit there and pick and choose their lab. The hospital's picking their lab, not them. And I would help negotiate those payments so that, again, the patient wouldn't receive a bill. And that's the goal here. If you have insurance, most people want to be able to use it. You're paying a pretty good premium. They want to be able to use those benefits. And so that's what we try to provide the assistance on the patient side for that. So how do we help our providers? We offer concierge level services, very personalized, and it can be for a startup business, an existing business, or even if they're shutting down and they're saying, we're going to turn over our aging accounts to you so you can collect them. And that's what we do as well. I had a small facility, outpatient facility, call me and said about $100,000 of unpaid claims. Can you please pursue them for me? And so that's what we're doing. So far, we've collected about $40-something thousand of that. And so that was $40-something thousand that organization was not expecting to receive. And so, you know, when you're thinking, okay, here's where I'm zeroing out. Oh, here's an extra $42,000. That's a great thing to have. And so thankfully for them, we were just a phone call away. They heard of us, they called us, and it worked out great for them. Many people do not understand their insurance benefits. They don't understand what's the difference between a copay, a coinsurance. I go to the emergency room, I have to pay this, but if I go to my doctor, I have to pay that. But then when I have knee surgery, I have to pay this, and they don't understand all the different pieces and parts. And all that many times has to do with whether how your plan is structured, but also how your reimbursement is set up with the provider. So for example, your provider may or may not be in network with your plan, and that changes the structure of how claims are paid. And so for some providers, they say, I'd rather be out of network because of these reasons. And they're valid reasons. And some people say, I want to be in network because of these reasons. And so we work within that structure, and we try to present to every provider. Sometimes a hybrid situation is better. Private pay, being out of network with some plans, being in network with other plans. It just depends on generally the area and the region, because some areas are far better to be out of network, and some areas are far more advantageous to be in network. Generally, in a city like this, there's many times when you can be out of network and you get better rates. And so that's why, we work within the structure. We become familiar with that region to see what's best for that provider. Our goal is to ensure that the revenue increases, not decreases. The next thing that we do is we work with in filing the claims, not only just timely filing, getting the claims in, but if you keep your cycle moving smoothly and very efficiently, you constantly have that income. And when you have a hiccup, all of a sudden something happens, and everybody has that overhead. And that's what we look at, especially for a smaller provider. We are always conscious to keep that revenue flow moving. And many times that includes working with that provider to improve their workflow, to make them more efficient so that they understand how they work within that whole system. And so many of our providers, one, become more efficient, then their revenue goes up because they're more efficient. Because now they're able to service more clients, provide more services, and then they're able to obviously bill more. But not only that, their clients are happier with them. And that makes better referrals for those providers. Another thing that we do, as I've said previously, is that I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, I have my sash or crown or whatever you want to call it. I stay abreast of pretty much as many market changes as I can. So for example, a few weeks ago, Cigna and Humana were going to merge portions of their benefits. So they have predominantly the Medicare replacement plans and the Advantage plans. They now canceled that. But who would have known that? If all of a sudden you were like, oh, whoa, this is now changing. Who would have known that? And then you come into the new, you're like, wait, I had Cigna, now I have Humana. I didn't sign up for that. So it's one of the things that we try to stay abreast of. When claims pay, they don't always pay the way they're supposed to. So for example, I had a provider, small provider, and United Healthcare was underpaying her by $30 to $35 per claim. Now, if you annualize that, that's a lot of claims. So what I did was I reviewed it and I said, wait a minute, I have a copy of the contract, I have a copy of the rate sheet. You guys are underpaying by this much. I just annualized it, here's the amount that's due. And now she's receiving those funds. She's quite excited about that. Another service that we offer is we renegotiate our providers' contracts. My last one that I did was a 15% increase in rates, 15%. And again, when you analyze that, that's a pretty big increase when you're talking 15%. Bottom line, don't trust those blankety blank insurance companies. Give you a little bit of success stories that we've had. I've told you about my $35 claims. I have a multi-specialty group practice that has seen 67% increase in revenue from last year to this year. And so, they're thrilled, obviously, and they're referring business to us because they are so happy with the services. Right now, denials, that's untapped revenue for most providers. They up to 90% of denials can be overturned.
Hmm.
And if you think about that, that's a lot of revenue for you.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I might have missed it. You do patient billings for the deductibles and the co-pays too?
We can if that's what. Remember when I said we structure according to what the provider needs? We can do that. Yep, we can do that. And so it is within our system that we can do. If the provider accepts the payment, they give us who paid what, and then we apply those payments, and then we can invoice as often as you want. Some say I want it every 2 weeks. Some say what you think is a lot, but this one provider wanted that, so that's what we did. And then usually it's once a month. Yes, sir.
So how can this group in our daily lives help you and, find you clients for you? How is that going to happen?
Generally, if you are working with a provider or anything like this that is struggling with their reimbursement rates, I don't say marketing, but building their infrastructure within their practice, that would be up my alley. If you know a provider, even yourself, who have denied claims, that's my forte is to review.
So if we're going to the doctor and we go and we're leaving the doctor and you talk to that person at the you say to them, how's your claims going? What is your biggest? What I always ask is, what is your biggest struggle right now in your practice? What is your biggest struggle besides staffing? That's always the biggest struggle right now. Everybody has an issue with that, and there's a couple of reasons why many people are struggling. One is because many are moving to telehealth, and the telehealth has actually a great market. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a single provider who provides only telehealth services in the evening. But pre-COVID, we couldn't do that. That was one of there's not a lot of things that COVID did for us. That is one thing COVID did for us, and the benefits for that have been extended through the end of 2024. Now, even if you lived in rural areas, you still had to travel pre-COVID. You still had to travel to a distant site, which means a provider location or something like that, in order to make that phone call for a telehealth. Well, I mean, that's useless for many people because they can't travel, they can't drive, for whatever reason. And so, I don't want my parents driving, you know what I mean? So I've moved them to home health. So for you, if you are working with a provider or you meet, if you're in your course of work, you're meeting somebody, like I said, anywhere from a single provider up. If they're licensed, I can bill it.
Home health is a problem. Home care, getting HHAs into most insurance companies don't like to work with that.
A lot of them struggle with it because many markets overbilled. And so it created a black mark against them. So if you're familiar with Palm Beach County a few years ago, we had multiple substance abuse facilities that were overbilling for urine drug screens to the point where they're actually giving the clients drugs so they can test positive so they can feed them back into the cycle. To the client, that was great because they had a place to live.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really unethical. I mean, you're risking that client's life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because and the reason why that's a risk is because they had previously built up their tolerance to whatever drug it was. So then you're giving them that drug again, and now that could be overdose possibility. But at any rate, with the unethical situation is that they were overbilling for the urine drug screens. And then you had all these doctors who were thinking, oh, that's a retirement plan for them. And so, like the home health, they started overbilling for services. Mm-hmm. And so, generally, there's an assessment, and they review this. This is all documentation now. Mm-hmm. And so, what we understand is that there is word recognition. So you think somebody's going to rethrow those documents to give you an authorization. No, they're not doing basically a word recognition. And then if there's a question, they'll say, we'll kick this one out and have a manual review. Right. Or they'll go to what we call a peer-to-peer. And so the bottom line is keep your ducks in a row.
And don't let them keep your, I don't have ducks in a row. I got squirrels running all over the place sometimes, but keep your ducks in a row, keep your documentation on point. And that's always, and I go in and I train doctors, nurse practitioners, how to document for those words that the insurance company is looking for.
We have time for one more question,
have a
and or any
question.
last thoughts from
When
Suzanne.
you said United Healthcare was underpaying a provider, what kind of plan was that? Was that group health insurance? Was
It was a Medicare replacement plan.
Medicare Advantage?
And so, and I basically sent them a copy of the contract saying, please see page 63. And with it circled and starred and everything saying, she's supposed to be reimbursed at this rate, and you're reimbursing her at $75.
And how do you guys get paid? You get a percentage?
We get a percent. And it depends on the amount of services that provider needs. Sometimes a provider says, I just want to do this. I'll let you do that, everything else.
So what percentage do you guys typically?
It starts at about 7%, can go, if it's a high volume, we'll go to 5%. But sometimes it's up as high as 9%.
Yeah, I charge 6% in New York.
Yeah. And so, and I'll be honest with you, 6% up there, that's not unusual.
It's not, that's about, couldn't get more.
Mm-hmm.
It would be lovely to have less, but
Yeah.
that's about New York, that's about what it was.
Right. In Florida, 7 is the average. In larger cities, it's a little higher. So like I said, our average rate is about 7%. And so the great thing is that it's not just garbage in, garbage out. I look at what is paying. I look at what is not paying. And if it's not paying, I look at why. But when I'm looking at a history, okay, you're paying, and all of a sudden you're not paying, something happened. Or, no, yes, okay, this is an error. Because the last thing we want is to have the insurance company call and say, hey, you owe me $4.2 million because we accidentally paid this.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had a provider a month ago. She called me up, she's in a fret, and she says, oh my God, I hate Florida Blue. I said, okay, what happened? She says, they want all this money back. I said, well, what are the dates of service? Well, they're way before me. And so I said, that's fine. Even though they're way before me, I'll look at them. And what happened is Florida Blue paid for codes that were not reimbursable. But they are on the medical side, but they're not on the behavioral health side.
Huh.
And so if your claims processor doesn't know that difference, they're going to pay that claim. So she owed $90 per claim. And I'm sorry. I said, I can negotiate an amount for you for reimbursed over a period of time, or if you can pay it off now, this is it. And she says, and at first her assistant says, well, that's their mistake. I said, yeah, sorry, your contract says if we make a mistake,
Tough.
you owe the money back.
Wow.
So
So
at least she
Medicaid
understood.
does the same thing.
Yeah, but at
This
least she
is-
understood.
The same thing, they'll send you a letter,
Mhm.
and if they won't take it out of your account. If you owe Medicare back money, you have to send them a check. They won't apply anything, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, and with Medicare, you have multiple levels of appeal, but it is to the day. If you're over by a day, it's done. It's done.
So on that note, with the remaining time left, I know you'll want to know more information from Suzanne. So if you don't pick Suzanne's card from the purple bag, this is your opportunity to either call her anyway, and she has business cards, and set up a one-on-one between Wednesday to Wednesday, and then we'll go on to the third part meeting. We thank you, Suzanne. Give her a round of applause as well. I'm sure everybody got a great education in the medical billing area. And if you're a provider online and you have an issue, go back and rewatch. Everybody here, the same thing. This will be up on my LinkedIn, my Facebook, on the Facebook group as well, Suzanne, that I just had you join. So if you guys are in that group too, if you are on our Facebook group, which 1,700 friends from over the years of like 15 years, and you share something on your Facebook, I'll share it to our group and tag you. So make sure you're friends with Sarah and I, and then that way I could alert you when I'm sharing it. Let's take us offline. Thanks everybody for listening.